once again.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're looking at something different. It is a pocket multimeter from SATA. This is a non-auto-ranging, non-true RMS multimeter. Is it any good? Well, stay tuned. We're going to soon find out. Before I start, I'd like to say thank you to SATA Tools for providing this multimeter for this demo and review. Appreciate it. And as always, this is totally independent review, whether or not the units are supplied by a third party or I pay for them. They all get reviewed the same, and there is definitely no bias when it comes to my reviews. Worth mentioning as well that this is a non-auto-ranging multimeter and it does not have a backlight. It is not true RMS. The SATA DY03001 ships in a SATA box, and in that box you get instructions, a little bit of bubble wrap, and that's about it. Now, this meter does have its own self-contained enclosure, aka case, and that's what we're looking at here. And that is my first big gripe with this meter, is the enclosure. It is hard as heck to open up. Looking at the back, we just have our wonderful warning labels and a serial number. Now, to open up the meter, technically all you should have to do is just push up on it. But with this meter, it ain't so simple. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, SATA decided to make your life difficult when you wanted to get to this meter. Why, I'm not sure. Being a pocket meter, you really want easy access. You want to be able to pull it out, do something, put it back. You don't want to be playing with it for half an hour. So, very emblematic. And it finally opens. So yeah, my first big gripe is this enclosure. It should be a lot easier to open. Perhaps even some sort of a sliding mechanism. But the way it is now, it is a real pain. Okay, so once we're inside, let's take a look. The case is very cheesy looking. If I take a little close up here, you can see that plastic is all you have between you and an utter disaster. This is a very flimsy mechanism. It's not going to last. SATA, you could have done so much better. You can see at the top we've got those test leads. They are permanently attached to the meter, so you're stuck with them whether you like them or not. The case, once again, has a very interesting kind of a retaining mechanism. Now, I thought originally that I could sort of tilt it comme ça, and at least, you know, we can have sort of a different viewing angle. But no. Can't do much with it. So try and lay it flat, kind of like that as well, and anyway, they didn't put a whole lot of thought into the design of this enclosure, and it's apparent and quite obvious. Multimeter with limited functions. You've got your volts, AC/DC, and your resistance, continuity, and diode. Now it also does milliamps, which we'll take a look at as well, so at least you have a little bit of current functionality. Now, my next big gripe with this is the selector switch. You really have to press down on it quite hard, give it a lot of force. Now, for some reason, the grooves here just doesn't work well. Perhaps if it was grooved the entire rotary would make a difference, but the way it stands, it's a pain in the butt to move. So yeah. Strike number 2 for Mr. SATA. Take a good look at that range selector switch. You can see how very, very tiny that protrudes from the casing, and it's very hard to get your fingers around. The leads are also stored here at the top, and you have a little enclosure here which you can pop open and pull out the leads. So yeah, that's good. Now, speaking of the leads, they're not really long. In fact, they're pretty short. I'd say it's about a little over 30 centimeters. Just not long leads. So if you're going to do much testing, you're going to end up dragging this like a little lost puppy. And that's a bit of a pain. They are fairly pointy. There is no cat rating on them, but we do have a gauge. Let's see if I can read that gauge wire. I don't see a gauge rating per se, but I do see it says 600 volts, 1 amp. Yeah, I don't know. Pretty thin. So I probably wouldn't do anything more than your standard household current voltage with this. Yeah, just doesn't feel very robust. The meter itself is really light. Just does not take much. It's very hard to keep it stationary or in one place because it just does not have enough heft to it. Alrighty, enough messing around with the case. Let's start testing. We'll look at the volts first. Be right back. Taking a look at the DC voltage reference, we should be seeing 2.50 volts. Pulling in 2.49. Now we should be seeing 250 millivolts. Once again, fairly close at 249. Next, it's volts AC, household. Should be around 120 volts here in North America or in Canada. And I will stick in the leads. And yeah, close enough. 121.4. Fabrication date of this meter is December 4th, 2018, so a very new incarnation. Unfortunately, the user manual is all in Chinese. There is no English version. Yeah, so that's always a bit of a pain when you don't actually get an English version. But yeah, so there we can see the settings. It has a rating of 300 volts. And on the milliamp scale, 200 milliamp is your max. Now it looks like they're putting a 250 milliamp volt fuse in this guy, but we'll soon find out. Ohms, once again, is very paltry. A 2 mega ohm, a 2000 kilo ohm. And yeah, so I mean, spec wise, this is just not very good. Anyway, there you go. Do a quick diode test as well. And yeah, no worries there. Next up, it's LED mode. I never met an LED I didn't want to illuminate. That just sounds weird. Okay, we're gonna start off with green LED and nothing. Nada pinata. Okay, try the yellow. That works. We do not have any display forward voltage drop, but we do have the illumination. Try the red. Same thing, lights it up. The white, it does, just barely. And finally the blue. And once again, it does light it up, but there is no forward voltage drop indicator. So all but the green was able to be illuminated. So 4 out of 5 ain't bad. A lot better than my 68. Okay, we'll do continuity next, since we are also in continuity mode. And you probably heard the continuity already, but just for the sake of being in continuity mode, here we go. Wow, huge delay. My God. It's like almost a 2-second delay. This is probably the worst continuity I have ever heard from from any meter for that matter. Horrible delay. Complete garbage. Next up is resistance. Now this has a paltry range of 2000K, so yeah, not much going on there. Let's try it out. We are in resistance mode here at the top. We have it set to the 2000K range, the maximum resistance range, and I've got it set here in the decade box to 1 mega ohm, and spot on. Okay, let's bring it up to 1.9. Slow to range, very slow. Wow, that's slow. Okay, so yeah, it's off by a few counts. Okay, let's see if we can Go to 2 mega ohm, 2000K maximum. Wow, it is very, very slow to range, so pretty painful. Pretty painful meter thus far. 1.98. All right, take it up by 1, and we're over limit. So, slow to range, painfully slow. Very tiny marginal resistance limit. Not impressed. Next up is current. We are in milliamp mode, as you can see here at the top. Now this is restricted to 200 milliamps. Make sure you have that interesting looking dial on the 200 milliamp mode. It does not do AC current, strictly DC. Sitting at around 93, 94 milliamps, and no problems with the SATA. Let's take it up a little bit. We're going to go up to 160 milliamps. 160 milliamps, looking good. We're going to bring it up to 100 and... Oh, I just went over accidentally, and we have an over. And let's see, I'm going to bring it back down. 170 milliamps and 170. So even though we went over, actually had it over to 230, and yeah, so it didn't blow the fuse. We'll take a look at the inside, and yeah, so you're maxed out at 200 milliamps. Not a heck of a lot. At least it does do milliamps to some degree. There you go. Next up, we're going to take a look at the inside and see what is going on. Here we are on the inside, and starting off with the speaker piezo. It is a really, really thin wafer style variety. You can take a look at that. It is ultra thin, and that has been soldered directly to the PCB. A couple of soldering joints over here. There's a resistor array right up on the top, and this is the steel insert retention mechanism for the selector switch. If you want to take this selector switch apart or take the other side off, you'll have to remove that first. Fuse-wise, we have one glass fuse, 250 volt, 250 milliamp, standard ho-hum style fuse. Down here we have your LR44 batteries, takes 2. And here's our diode, and that is probably for reverse input protection. So if you put the batteries in the wrong way, you're not going to fry your meter. One PTC at the top, your generic no-name brand. A couple of transistors as well, probably a transistor clamp. The main IC has been cobbed, and not a lot else to report. Now, one of the few good things about this meter, for instance, you do have your brass inserts here, so when you have to remove the back to this interesting meter, you're not going to strip the casing. So you've got 2 of those, and as well, if you look at the soldering joint, it's not so bad here at the top. SATA's done a fairly decent job of getting those tied in pretty snugly. There's not a lot of play on those leads, so it should last a fairly long time. Coming up in April is going to be Unity Review Week. That's right, we're going to have a really awesome, interesting week. Very informative. We're going to look at some very nice Unity multimeters, test leads. You're going to like what you see. Closing thoughts on the SATA Pocket Digital Multimeter. Pass this one by. It is definitely not worth the aggravation that it causes. Just to open up the clamshell is extremely painful process, and once you're inside, it's not worth the effort. The rotary selector switch on this one is a real pain in the butt to operate. I'm telling you, it just drives me crazy. The more I have to use it, the more I just want to abuse it. Oh, this thing drives me nuts. Has limited functionality in terms of the actual ranges themselves. Overall, it's just a very unpleasant experience. The SATA Pocket Multimeter gets a dismal 1.5 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching this review, everybody. Keep the comments coming. Love to hear the feedback. And most important, keep on testing.